Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So if you're new here, my name is Barb, and I try to post weekly, although in the last few, maybe months, I've kind of fallen off the weekly schedule, and I apologize for anyone that does tune in weekly, hoping to hear a new episode. Life has just been extremely hectic, but I'm trying my best to get back to the weekly schedule. So this week, I am focusing on a historic property here in my home area, and that is the Historic Fortress of Louisbourg. So it's a National Historic Site, and it is run by Parks Canada. What makes this place special? Well, you'll have to just stay tuned to find out. From Cape Breton, it's Saturday night. Okay, so the Fortress of Louisbourg, located in the town, just outside the town of Louisbourg, in Nova Scotia, on the island of Cape Breton, which is the island I live on. It was established by the French in 1713. Now, if you're thinking this whole episode is going to be a history lesson about the French coming to North America, you'd be sadly mistaken. I do not give history lessons, although I will give you some dates and such, but I'm kind of more interested in what's going on there now. So let's get to it. Again, 1713 it started. It took them quite a long time to build the fortress. The fortress was massive. Current day, it is a reconstruction of the fortified site, and it's only 1/5 the original size. You heard me correctly. Only 20% of its original size. And it's still the largest reconstructed fortified site in North America. So if you've never been, why not? Head on over to Nova Scotia, head on down to the island of Cape Breton and to the eastern shores where you would find this beauty, this gem, this haunted place. So I picked the Fortress of Louisbourg for my topic this week because I'm actually going there tonight for a ghost hunt. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, if you're interested in the woo-woo or the spookies, then you're going to want to check out my YouTube channel, and that's just my name, Barbara Geddes. I'll link it below in the show notes, and you'll want to tune in and subscribe, hit the notification bell, because I will be posting an actual ghost hunt investigation from the Fortress of Louisbourg. This fortress saw 2 main battles and quite a lot of death. So again, we're back in early 1700s, the 18th century. France sent over people to North America. There was a stronghold of French in Quebec, and there was a lot of fish off the North Atlantic. So the French decided that Louisbourg would be a great place to put a stronghold or a city. Now, in the 1600s, mid-1600s, they were in Cape Breton. They were in 2 other areas, and I won't go into the main history. If you're interested in that, I certainly can link some information, or you can check out some of my other YouTube videos. I think I talked about it there, or maybe the first Fortress of Louisbourg episode I did. I talked about it. I know I talked about it somewhere. I just can't remember where. Most likely in the podcast episode. So you'll go and find that there. It, I think, was my 2nd episode ever released, and it's called Explicit Fortress of Louisbourg. Oh God, and it was about 2 amazing women. So if I don't link it, you can go find it by that description. Anywho, the French had these 2 other sites in the 1600s, but they needed something larger. And these 2 sites, one was close to the North Atlantic, although nestled within an inlet, and the other was deep within an inlet off the North Atlantic. So they weren't directly along the North Atlantic shores. They decided that Louisbourg, which does sit directly along the North Atlantic, would be a better area for them. It would be the first point of entry or the first point of contact of any ships coming over from Europe to invade North America or to invade the French, to move on to the Gulf of St. Lawrence, or at least that's what the French thought. They didn't know that they could just bypass that place, go around the island, and go down the Gulf of St. Lawrence and into Quebec. So they put this city. And let me just give a little bit of context here. A fort is a military base. A fortress not only has military, but also has towns. inside the fortified walls. So you'll have merchants, you'll have homes, you'll have hotels, taverns, all the things you would find within a town, but within the fortified walls. And that's what makes it a fortress. So this fortress was established, and they realized that there was a lot of great fishing off the North Atlantic coast. Lots of cod, so cod was a main staple, and they would cure it and ship it back to France. 1713, they started to build. 1745, they finished. You guys do the math on that. So when they finished in 1745, of course, they were very, very thrilled with themselves until the very next day. The very next day, the British invaded for the first siege of the Fortress of Louisbourg. This siege took over a month. The British were out in the waters on their ships. They were also across the way at the lighthouse, the very first lighthouse in North America, by the way, or in Canada at least, the very first lighthouse in Canada. Let me stand corrected. Built in 1732. So they were at the lighthouse. They were also on a small island off the coast and in the waters in their ships. And there was a grand fight until the end, until the French basically had to surrender. There was not a lot of, like a huge amount of death with that one. The British basically just waited them out. And then they took hold of the fortress, and the French moved along. They went back to France. But in 1752, the French realized, because they had made friends with the First Nations people, the indigenous people here, which are the Mi'kmaq. We are on unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and I'd like to actually recognize that. So they had made friends and had learned that there was a treaty being signed by the government in Nova Scotia and the First Nations people. And it was a peace treaty in 1752. So France got on board with this peace treaty and said, hey, so during this peace treaty, France got on board and they kind of called the British over and said, listen, there's a peace treaty being signed. We'd really like you and us to get involved in this and call a truce, call peace. And for that, the British said, well, in order for you to get Louisbourg back, which is what the French were wanting, they said, we want a great deal of your land in France. So if we look at historic maps, I'm sure I've never done this, but this is the details of the treaty. France must have been a lot larger than what it is current day, because unless the French got it back over time, again, I don't know their history, but in order for the French to get Louisbourg back in the fortress, they needed to give the British a great parcel of land. So they did that, they agreed to that, and they got the fortress back. And the main reason they wanted the fortress back was because the fishery was so lucrative. That was the main reason. Of course, they did want to protect Quebec, but it was the fishery. Our island has always relied on fishing, and to this day, 2023, fishing is our main source of income on the island. So this is, since the 1600s, since people first started coming here, really, 400 years of fishing? Okay, so they get Louisbourg back in 1752. Pause for coffee. And dramatic effect. Okay, so they get Louisbourg back, 1752. They have it back and they're all happy and the fishing's going good and blah, 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 blah. But the King of England is quite peeved by this move. And he says, no, sir. You guys down in Boston, I want you to come up and I want you to take that fortress back from them, those silly French, and I want you to destroy it completely down to the ground, destroy everything, and expel them out of the area. How dare they sign a peace treaty? So in 1758, here the British are again, except instead of coming to the front of the fortress in the water, they docked their ships quite a bit away in another little inlet or bay called called Kennington Cove. This place was really, really remote away from the fortress. And they trekked through the swamp. It's all swampy, disgusting land. Like, I wouldn't trek through that, and I like to go hiking. It is awful. Small, piney, sticky spruce trees that poke you. Their skin must have been completely just opened up with wounds. But they're trekking through this swampy, bad forest, with their horses, with their guns and artillery, with the cannons. I heard this story when I was a little girl, and I'm in my 40s. I still can't believe that they would do that, especially since I've been to the area, I've seen it with my own eyes, and maybe I'm spoiled. But hell no, I don't care what king was asking me. There's no freaking way I'd be traveling through that swamp to then fight the French. So again, the French were friends with the indigenous people, the Mi'kmaq, and were fur trading and just they were friends with them, which was great because it's how the French really survived winters and so on, because they knew how to do it. Now, when the British had the fortress the first time, they didn't stay there. Actually, more died after they took hold of the fortress than during the battle, because they couldn't survive the winters. They weren't friends with the Mi'kmaq. There was a lot of smallpox. So more people died after the siege than during the siege. And this is death on the fortress property. So again, 1758, I keep jumping back and forth, sorry guys. 1758, the British are coming through the back way. The French aren't prepared, and they're kind of ambushed. It doesn't take a month to take hold of the fortress this time. The French are expelled, and the fortress is subsequently destroyed. There was only one building and a few walls, like fence walls and foundation walls left. It was devastating to the French. Now, some of the French, when they were expelled, sought out their Mi'kmaq friends, and they said, "We love it here. We don't want to leave you. We don't want to leave this place. Please help us." Hence, today, we have Acadian villages here in Cape Breton. The French that did not stay on the island went to mainland Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Quebec, and then a really large chunk of them traveled from Quebec down through the United States, where the French still had a hold through that area, through the Mississippi River area, down into Louisiana, better known as the Cajun French, or Canadian Acadian. The Acadian name, the Acadian French, which is the eastern coast of Canada, that's what the French are called here, comes from Acadie. And there's a place in the mainland of Nova Scotia called l'Acadie, which means, I believe it means the paradise. I think Acadie means paradise. And they just adapted from l'Acadie or Acadie, Acadienne, which, of course, my brutal English translates to Acadian. Okay, so all that history done, blah, 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 17 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever we're at of history. Now let's get into the fun stuff. Is the fortress haunted? What do you guys think? I've told you some of the history. Pause. Think about it. Look at some pictures on Google. What do you think? Do you think it's haunted? Do you think ghosts are real? What's your opinion? Now, I do have my own opinion, and I've struggled with it throughout my whole life, back and forth. I really do believe that there's life after death and there's something there. However, and I say that with a strong however, I like to see the proof. So that's why I'm going tonight. I'm taking my recorders, I'm taking my voice recorder for an EVP, I'm taking my camera, I'm taking the Spirit Talker, I'm taking extra batteries, you name it, because I'm in it. I want proof. I want that I heard a voice, or I captured something on film, or something. Show me something, prove something. Because even though I believe, I'm not scared of it. I've never been scared. I mean, if there are ghosts out there, if there are spirits, at least I know they were actually people at one point. Maybe they died in the battle. Maybe they died from smallpox or consumption, or maybe they had just couldn't weather through our winters. Whatever the case may be, they were people. And people in death are not scary. It's people that are alive I'm more scared of. So I'm going there with an open mind and an open heart, and because I absolutely love this place. Once you see it, you will know what I'm talking about. If you like that kind of historic property kind of look. Have any of you ever seen the Disney movie Squanto, Indian Warrior? That was filmed at the Fortress of Louisbourg, for the most part. There were scenes in mainland Nova Scotia and in Quebec as well. However, the majority of that was filmed at the Fortress. So once you watch my YouTube video on the Fortress, you Google some images, you look at some other people's videos, or you just look at Parks Canada and some images there. Go watch the movie, you'll recognize the site. Come back, look at my YouTube video of my investigation. And it's not just me, by the way. I've joined a group that is hosting this, so I've paid for a ticket to stay overnight and do this whole thing out of my own pocket, not sponsored at all. And I'm looking forward to seeing how many people are there, because after the main part of the event from 5:30 till like 9:30, at 9:45 we're being split into two groups. And this is the group of people that are staying overnight for the ghost hunt. We're being split into two groups, and then each group will go ghost hunting in different areas. So that part I'm more excited for. I mean, I am excited that the tavern's going to be open and I can have some Fortress rum that they distill right on property. Rum is a big thing here. Maybe I'll get into that story another time. But for now, guys, wish me luck. Send all your positive vibes my way, because tonight is the night I go ghost hunting. Dun dun dun. I need special sound effects, don't I? Anywho, I'm off. I gotta go pick up my dogs. They're at the groomers. They just called. And until maybe next week, I can't promise you guys that. Sorry. Life is extremely busy. But I am desperately trying to get this microphone in my face at least once a week. So until then, or until next time, take care, friends.